with oil itself. Two different ways of looking at the same debate. Yeah.
I'm Bob Hershey. I'm a consulting engineer. What do we have to learn from the oil shale experience of Estonia? Been doing it for several years.
From the oil shale?
Of Estonia? You mentioned
Yes,
Estonia.
yes. The Estonians, remarkable. Estonia has derived and continues to develop oil shale for electrical power. It burns the shale. It can make a fuel as well. We're talking fuel today, but shale is around for production into utility. In other words, electric power, burning it. And Estonia is a world leader in that respect. Estonia has just entered into an agreement with Jordan to develop Jordanian oil shale and so on. That's why I introduced the question of signing an agreement with Brazil, getting President Bush to alerted to two agreements, one for sugar, one for shale, and then taking out under existing law technology sharing and agreements and co-development in Brazil. But we have much to learn from Estonia and the tar sands issues and so on. There are many co-products. One co-product, by the way, from Colorado shale is trona, soda ash. It's enormous, which was called nacolite. And the mineral byproduct is very valuable in terms of fertilizer and so forth. There's an enormous co-product. It was interesting, the Bureau of Land Management looked at the Exxon application. Exxon wanted a lease, and Exxon did not put down its data, did not surrender data or interest in the co-product, and they didn't get the lease. So there's a valuable co-product, soda ash in it, nacolite, that you can get out of shale. But any other questions? There's one.
My name is Richard Ranger. I'm with API. How do you respond to the contention that the main reason shale has not been developed has been because of economics, because of price, because of the cyclicality of crude oil prices, which at a couple of points perhaps reached levels where shale, a couple of points where companies were induced to invest in shale technologies as they then understood them, and then backed away given downward price cycles. I think part of the response is your proposal to purchase shale oil production or kerogen production, as you outlined in your talk, but it seems like you're describing the history in a more complicated manner. If this had been economic to produce, it would have been produced.
Well, you introduced the whole history really in the question. In the 1960s, Stuart Udall called for shale leases. There was no interest from industry. The American industry was not interested at that point because crude oil per barrel was $3. And so the industry itself, looking at its assets and its opportunities on a world scale by the 1960s, had to compare its rate of return to shale. And the cycle of price. Why did shale fail in 1982? Why did Exxon close down its operation in Colorado? The slope of supply, the Saudi output, up till through the 80s, again took the price down where it was not economic against other opportunities. Now, what's interesting about that, was what is economic in shale then and what is today. In other words, there are some studies still around, and they collect sometimes on the internet. There's people will quote them. These studies are dated in 73, 72, latest, which say that shale needs $70 a barrel. But in testimony in the House Resource Committee in 2005, Shell said, no. We see in 2005, $20 to $25 economic for us to continue. So we're in a period when the industry has to essentially project and take some risk. What's the risk of price? How do you evaluate forward prices against risk at this point? The shale story that I see in all cases that I presented today will return industry a minimum of 15% return on investment, ROI. That will be indeed possible at prices, we'll say, over $40. And if you see oil going down to $40, and some analysts do, you're there. One of the things that the shale oil industry will look at will be a floor price as well, to essentially address the problem of 90-some years of price volatility. And that will be interesting to see. But I think at this point, the consensus is that oil has reached a plateau, the price of oil, and you begin to look forward. Are we going to go back to the days of essentially $20 oil? Do you see that, then you don't invest in shale. But if you see oil at 40 plus, I think the industry has a real candidate. Well, thank you again.
Thank you all for coming.